We've looked through 4 learning spaces at Western Sydney Uni through a human-centered design lens: an open ceiling classroom, the PEIH amphitheatre, the Hassel Street workshop, and the PEIH study environment. Even though these spaces serve different purposes, they all shape how students learn, focus, move, and interact. Together, they show how design decisions can directly affect everyday university experience. The study matters because students don't just use these spaces, they respond to them, adapt to them, and sometimes struggle with them. Across the 4 projects, common issues kept appearing, including discomfort, distraction, poor access, and limited privacy. So instead of only asking how these spaces look, we asked how well they actually support the people using them.
The problem establishes that although open ceiling systems are increasingly executed in education architecture, its effectiveness is questioned in supporting productive learning environments. The 4 subsidiary questions exploring this is: how does the limited visual cohesion of the ceiling influence learning environments? How does the structure of the ceiling impact psychologically on students, making them feel unsafe? How does this influence the overall design of the interior space? How can the visual appeal be further improved to user satisfaction? The next problem establishes how can we reconfigure the PEIH amphitheater to accommodate all people's needs for comfort, safety, and engagement in a full lecture class when it was not originally designed for this use. The 4 subsidiary questions exploring this is: how does the seating arrangement affect comfort, visibility of the space? How are the environmental conditions, i.e. the sun, rain, wind, managed? How does the design influence student behavior and engagement? And how can flexible design improve to foster both formal and informal discussion? The next problem establishes how can workshop access be reconfigured to support students' project needs, time constraints, and workload rather than working against them. The 4 subsidiary questions exploring this: how does the workspace access influence students' needs? How does changing accessibility directly impact students using it? How do students actively depend on workshops for assignments? How can the workshop be further developed to assist students' studying needs? The final problem establishes how can the spatial configuration of the learning environment be redesigned to support both collaborative and individual engagement. The 4 subsidiary questions exploring this is: how does the open layout create limitations for effective study? How does the environment directly affect student engagement and behavior? How does a flexible seating arrangement influence students' willingness to study within the building? And how can the learning environment accommodate the different needs of students?
Our approach. Across all 4 investigations, we used a human-centered design framework, meaning we started with the people in the space, not the space itself. Every project was guided by the ideal field guide, and every team member used a mix of primary and secondary research to understand the space from the inside out. The tools looked different across each project, but the question was always the same: how is the space actually working for the people inside it? Primary research methods. Between us, we interviewed and observed students, lecturers, janitors, and technicians across 4 different spaces. We ran surveys, conducted fly-on-the-wall observations, took annotated photographs, and mapped circulation paths. Some of us had 6 participants, others had 10, but what every primary method had in common was us getting out of the assumptions and into lived, real experience. Watching how these people actually move, sit, struggle, and adapt inside these spaces. The Miro tools. To make sense of what we found, we used a consistent set of visual mapping tools in Miro. Empathy maps capture what each user thinks, feels, says, and does. Journey maps trace the full experience from entry to exit across 3 stages. Taxonomy tables compared user groups side by side. Affinity maps clustered recurring themes, and the 4-side strategy helped us reflect on assumptions and identify where each space needs to go next. Secondary research. We also grounded every investigation in secondary research, academic journals, architectural documentation, and design frameworks. Sources range from spatial psychology and ergonomics literature to building briefs for 6 Hassel Street itself. This lets us benchmark what we observe against what research says effective learning environments should look like. And in every single case, there was a gap between the research recommends and what these spaces actually deliver.
Across the group's investigations, the results revealed consistent concerns regarding comfort, accessibility, concentration, and the effectiveness of learning environments within university spaces. Through surveys, interviews, observations, journey mappings, and empathy mappings, several recurring themes emerged, including physical discomfort, visual distraction, overcrowding, environmental stress, and reduced learning engagement. The workshop accessibility study highlighted issues relating to overcrowding and restricted opening hours. Most students accessed workshops after 3 p.m., creating congestion, noise, and time pressure. Several participants reported abandoning projects because of long queues or limited access. Findings also showed that commuting and time-poor students were disproportionately disadvantaged by the current workshop schedule. The open ceiling classroom study found that 64% of students considered the exposed ceiling visually distracting. Many participants also reported thermal discomfort and feelings of uneasiness caused by visible ductwork and exposed surfaces. While most students generally felt safe, the majority still preferred enclosed ceiling systems, suggesting that visual clutter and inconsistent environmental conditions negatively affect comfort and concentration. The amphitheater seating investigation revealed major concerns regarding physical comfort and accessibility. A minor group of students experienced discomfort due to limited back support and lack of desks, while 83% struggled to see or hear the lecturer clearly. Journey mapping and empathy analysis showed that the classroom layout restricted interaction and created a passive learning environment not suited for effective teaching. The PEIH investigation found that students struggled to focus due to excessive social exposure and limited privacy within the space. Around 75% of participants preferred studying at home because of distractions and reduced comfort levels. Observations also revealed coping behaviors such as relocating seats and using headphones, reinforcing how environmental conditions strongly influence concentration and learning experience.
Our findings show that the biggest issue across all four spaces is a mismatch between design, intent, and actual use. The classroom causes distraction, the amphitheater is used as a lecture space without being designed for it, the workshop limits fair access, and the PEIH study space lacks privacy and focused support. Research shows that learning spaces should be judged by lived experience, not just layout or appearance. By using tools like empathy maps, journey maps, and the foresight strategy, we identified how design affects emotion, behavior, and learning outcomes. Research could test these ideas through prototypes and post-occupancy evaluation. This could include trialing new workshop hours, flexible furniture, or better privacy environmental controls to measure how student experiences improve over time.